The sun rises over Waco, Texas, and, it paints the limestone buildings of Baylor University in a soft, golden light. Students walk along familiar paths, their backpacks slung over their shoulders. They head to class, to the library, to the student union. It is a scene of collegiate ambition and routine, a picture of American life unfolding as it should. Inside the Farrell Center, the university's basketball arena, the quiet is profound. The vast space is empty, save for the faint echo of past games. The polished hardwood floor gleams under the bright overhead lights, a stage waiting for its players, for the thunder of sneakers and the roar of the crowd. A single basketball sits at the center court line. Suddenly, it begins to bounce. The sound is sharp and rhythmic, a steady beat in the cavernous silence. Faster and faster it goes, the sound of a player in their element, honing their craft, chasing a lifelong dream. The rhythm is hypnotic, a pulse of pure potential. Then, a whistle blows, sharp and piercing. It cuts through the air, and the bouncing stops. The arena is plunged back into an unnerving silence. The ball rolls slowly away, coming to a stop near the three-point line. The moment of action is over, replaced by a sudden and unsettling stillness that hangs in the air like a question. A piece of paper flutters into view, tacked to a campus bulletin board. It is a missing person poster. The face on the poster is young, smiling, full of life. The name printed below is Patrick Dennehy. The image lingers for a moment before the screen is flooded with a rapid succession of news headlines. They flash by, a chaotic blur of bold text and urgent warnings. Baylor basketball player missing. Foul play suspected. Search intensifies for student athlete. The headlines give way to flashing red and blue lights. Police cars speed down quiet suburban streets and then onto lonely, tree-lined forest roads. Their sirens silent, but their purpose clear. He dreamed of playing basketball at the highest level. That was the goal. It was the focus of his energy, the destination he had worked toward his entire life. But before his career could truly begin, he disappeared. Patrick Dennehy vanished from the world he knew, leaving behind only questions and a growing sense of dread among those who loved him. Weeks later, investigators would uncover a truth that would not only explain his absence, but also shake the foundations of American college sports. It was a discovery that revealed a story far darker and more complex than anyone could have ever imagined. A story of betrayal, corruption, and murder. The story of Patrick Dennehy is a tragedy that extends far beyond a single life cut short. It forced a powerful institution to confront its own failings and exposed pressures beneath high-stakes collegiate athletics. To understand what happened, follow the facts. This account is built on verified public information. It draws from court records, official police reports, reputable journalism, and findings of formal investigations. Every detail has been carefully sourced. This narrative will make careful distinctions. It will separate confirmed facts from court testimony. It will differentiate publicly reported statements from unsubstantiated allegations. The goal is not to sensationalize, but to document with respect and precision. The tone will remain serious and investigative, focused on piecing together the timeline of Patrick's disappearance, the subsequent criminal investigation, and the scandal that erupted in its wake. The story needs no embellishment. It is a chronicle of a young man's stolen future and the systemic rot his death brought to light. Patrick's journey to Baylor was the culmination of years of hard work. He was a talented basketball player from San Jose, California, a young man with a clear vision for his future. He saw a path to the NBA, with Baylor as a crucial stepping stone. He transferred with high hopes to join the Baylor Bears and make his mark in the competitive Big 12 Conference. To friends and family, he was more than an athlete. Charismatic, driven, and full of promise. He was on the verge of realizing his dream. Then, in the summer of 2003, he vanished. Communication suddenly stopped. Phone calls from his family went unanswered. Messages from friends received no reply. This was not like Patrick. Concern mounted, turning into palpable fear as days became a week. His car was found abandoned in another state. His family officially reported him missing, setting in motion an investigation that captured national attention. The search for Patrick Dennehy had begun, and with it, the slow unraveling of a story that would forever alter college sports. Patrick James Dennehy was born in Santa Clara, California, on January 28, 1982. From an early age, his life was defined by movement and a search for stability. Patrick Sr. and Valerie divorced when he was young. This set the stage for a childhood spent between different homes in California and New Mexico. Despite the frequent changes in scenery, one constant remained: basketball. The court was his sanctuary, a place where the rules were clear, and success was earned through discipline and effort. It was on the hardwood that Patrick found his focus and his identity. He was tall, athletic, and driven, a combination of natural gifts and a relentless work ethic that made him stand out. His talent was undeniable. As a high school player, first in New Mexico and later back in California, he began to attract attention. He was a force in the paint, a skilled rebounder and shot blocker with a soft touch around the rim. He wasn't just playing for fun, he was playing for a future. His dream was singular and powerful: to play in the National Basketball Association. This wasn't a casual ambition, it was the organizing principle of his life. Every practice, every drill, every game was a step toward that ultimate goal. He carried himself with a confidence that bordered on swagger, a necessary armor for a young man determined to make his way in the hyper-competitive world of elite basketball. After graduating from Wilcox High School in Santa Clara, Patrick's journey took him to the University of New Mexico. He joined the Lobos, a Division I program, and spent 2 seasons there. His time in Albuquerque was a mix of promise and frustration. He showed flashes of the dominant player he could be, but he also struggled for consistent playing time and felt his development was not progressing as he had hoped. According to public reports from his family, he grew unhappy with his situation. The path to the NBA seemed to be narrowing, not widening. He needed a change. He made the difficult decision to transfer, a move that would require him to sit out a full season of competition due to NCAA rules. It was a significant sacrifice, but one he was willing to make for the right opportunity, a place where the coaching staff believed in his talent and could help him reach the next level. His search eventually led him to a private Baptist university in the heart of Texas, a place that promised a fresh start and a renewed shot at his dream. That place was Baylor University. Patrick Dennehy arrived at Baylor University in the fall of 2002. He was an imposing figure on campus, standing at 6 feet 10 inches tall. But his size was matched by a friendly and often charismatic personality. He was transferring into a program fighting for relevance in the tough Big 12. For Patrick, this was the perfect scenario. He saw an opportunity to become a cornerstone for the Baylor Bears, a player who could make a real impact. He was confident his skills would translate well. After his mandatory redshirt year, he would be a starter and a star. During the 2002-2003 season, Patrick had to watch from the sidelines. As a transfer, NCAA regulations required him to sit out 1 year. This period was a test of his patience and discipline. While his teammates traveled for road games, he stayed behind in Waco, practicing with the team and working on his individual skills. He used the time to acclimate to a new system, a new city, and new teammates. He also focused on his academics. By all public accounts, he spent the year preparing his body and his mind. For the moment, he could finally step onto the court wearing the green and gold of the Baylor Bears. As Patrick integrated into the Baylor basketball program, he formed a close bond with another new player, Carlton Dotson. Like Patrick, Dotson was a transfer student hoping to make his mark. He had come to Baylor from Paris Junior College in Texas and was a fellow big man on the team. Their shared status as newcomers created a natural connection. They became roommates, sharing an off-campus apartment. They navigated the challenges as a pair, supporting each other through the daily grind. Their friendship seemed, on the surface, to be a typical bond between teammates. However, as the months went on, the dynamic between Patrick and Carlton reportedly grew more complex. Friends and family would later recount stories of a relationship that could be intense and, at times, strained. They were two very different personalities. Patrick was described as more outgoing and expressive, while Dotson was often seen as quieter. They were both competing for a future, a reality that can foster camaraderie and rivalry. Their shared apartment became the epicenter of their intertwined lives. By the spring of 2003, reports suggested that Patrick's life was becoming increasingly unsettled. He expressed concerns about his environment. He reportedly told family members that he felt unsafe and even spoke about purchasing firearms for protection. These conversations painted a picture of a young man who was growing fearful. According to public statements, tensions between Dennehy and Dotson had escalated. In the final weeks of his life, Patrick allegedly told several people that he and Dotson had gone to a rural area outside of Waco to practice shooting the guns they had acquired. This excursion would later be seen in a much more sinister light. The summer of 2003 arrived in Waco with its familiar heavy heat. For Patrick Dennehy, it was supposed to be a season of intense preparation. The long, frustrating redshirt year was over. His moment was finally approaching. He had stayed in Waco for the summer session, taking classes and participating in informal team workouts. He was focused, driven, and ready to prove that the university's investment in him was a wise one. His dream of playing in the NBA felt closer than ever. Then, in the middle of June, the communication abruptly stopped. Patrick suddenly went silent. His phone started going straight to voicemail. But as one day bled into the next, the lack of contact became unsettling. His girlfriend, Jessica Suda, grew increasingly worried. His close friends on campus had not seen him. The last time anyone could definitively place him was around June 12, 2003. When they inquired with his roommate, Carlton Dotson, the explanations were reportedly vague and inconsistent. According to statements later given to police, Dotson told some people that Patrick had decided to go home to Colorado for a family emergency. The narrative began to crumble when Patrick's family started making their own frantic calls. They had not heard from him either, and there was no family emergency in Colorado. The disconnect was the first major red flag. The quiet unease escalated into genuine fear. Patrick was not just out of touch, he was missing. The search for answers began in earnest. Back in California, Patrick Dennehy's family was becoming frantic. His mother, Valerie, and stepfather, Brian Brebrazin, trying to reach him. Their calls went directly to his voicemail, a digital dead end amplifying their anxiety. June 19th. After more than a week, Brian called Waco PD to report Patrick missing. The official police investigation had begun, but the context was troubling. He left behind his belongings, his dog, and made no arrangements for his absence. The family told police about recent behavior, purchase of firearms, and his expressed fears for his safety. They reached out to Baylor University officials and the basketball coaching staff. They learned he had not attended classes or workouts. They heard Carlton Dotson's story, that Patrick had gone home. But his family was his home, and he was not there. The discrepancy was chilling. June 25th. The private nightmare became public. Waco PD issued a bulletin declaring Patrick missing. The news sent a shockwave through Baylor and college sports. For Patrick's family, the announcement was a double-edged sword. It confirmed that their son was officially terrifyingly gone. A significant break in the case came on June 25. Police located Patrick's vehicle, his 1996 Chevrolet Tahoe. The discovery of the car so far from where he was last seen was a deeply ominous development. Why was it in Virginia Beach? Virginia Beach was not a random spot on the map. It was near the home of Carlton Dotson's parents. This fact immediately elevated Dotson from a mere person of interest to a central figure in the investigation. Detectives from the Waco Police Department quickly coordinated with law enforcement in Virginia Beach. The timeline was tightening. The investigation took a dramatic and decisive turn on July 21, 2003. On that day, Carlton Dotson made a phone call. During this recorded conversation, Dotson made a stunning admission. He told the dispatcher that he had shot and killed Patrick Dennehy. He claimed the shooting occurred in Waco, Texas. He alleged that Dennehy had pointed a gun at him first, and he had reacted by shooting his roommate in self-defense. Immediately following the call, law enforcement agencies mobilized. He was arrested and charged with the murder of Patrick Dennehy. The search for a missing person was now officially a homicide investigation. On July 25, 2003, their search led them to a privately owned gravel pit about 5 miles from Waco. In a marshy, overgrown section of the property, they found a human body. The following day, the Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office used dental records to officially identify the remains as those of Patrick Dennehy. The cause of death was determined to be multiple gunshot wounds to the head. This new information led investigators to a creek bed. There, partially submerged in the mud and water, they found 2 handguns. Ballistics testing would later confirm that one of these weapons was the firearm used to kill Patrick Dennehy. Following his confession and arrest, a McLennan County grand jury formally indicted him for the murder of Patrick Dennehy. Dotson was held in custody as he awaited trial. Initially, public statements suggested a claim of self-defense, but the claim was undermined by the evidence. As the case moved toward trial, a new and significant legal issue emerged: Carlton Dotson's mental state. Psychiatrists determined that Dotson was suffering from schizophrenia. A judge ruled in March 2004 that Carlton Dotson was mentally incompetent to stand trial. He was ordered to be committed to a state mental hospital for treatment. Dotson spent over a year at the North Texas State Hospital. In February 2005, a judge reviewed the new reports and officially declared him competent to stand trial. The path was finally clear for the murder trial to proceed. Just as a jury was being selected, Dotson's defense team announced he had agreed to a plea deal. Dotson would change his plea from not guilty to guilty. On June 15, 2005, Dotson stood before a judge in Waco. The judge sentenced him to 35 years in prison. The legal chapter was now closed, but the full impact was still unfolding. The murder exposed rot within the Baylor basketball program. That inquiry would reveal a far more shocking scandal. The murder of Patrick Dennehy was the beginning of a public relations nightmare that quickly spiraled into an institutional crisis. Journalists started asking tough questions. The internal probe quickly uncovered evidence. It found that Patrick's tuition and living expenses were paid for by someone else. The man at the center was head coach Dave Bliss, the architect of a morally bankrupt cover-up. In secretly recorded conversations, Bliss instructed them to lie to investigators. He urged a fabricated story that Patrick was paying tuition by dealing drugs. Recordings captured Bliss coaching specific lies. "What we've got to create here is a drug dealer," he was heard saying. He pressured the team to present a united front. The plot was not just NCAA violations, it was a profound ethical failure. The attempt to slander a dead man was the most shocking revelation. The unraveling of Dave Bliss's cover-up marked the final sordid chapter. The secret recordings were turned over to investigators. When the tapes became public, the fallout was swift and severe. Bliss was forced to resign in disgrace. The university's president resigned. The athletic director also resigned. The NCAA came down hard on Baylor. The basketball program was placed on probation for years. It was a public shaming. Patrick Dennehy's death exposed a scandal that served as a brutal wake-up call for Baylor and for the entire landscape of college athletics. It laid bare the corrupting influence of pressure to win at all costs. Baylor implemented sweeping reforms. The case became a touchstone about universities' responsibilities to student athletes. It highlighted the immense power coaches hold over young players and how that power can be abused. Patrick Dennehy came to Waco to play basketball. He was talented and ambitious, but his life was cut short. His murder was a profound personal tragedy for his family. For his friends, a loss that can never be undone. Patrick Dennehy came to Baylor chasing a dream. His life ended far too soon. But the truth uncovered after his death changed college basketball forever.